500 years ago, he washed ashore the sole survivor of a shipwreck. And upon the skull of the man who killed his dad, he said, I'm mad, I must eradicate piracy, injustice and cruelty, and all my sons will follow me, so evildoers will believe that this man cannot die.
G'day everyone, this is X-Band, the Phantom Podcast. Our website is chroniclechamber.com and you can subscribe to our podcast via YouTube or through your favourite podcast apps. Make sure that favourite's with a PH. Now, do not forget to give us a rating on your podcast app and to tell a mate about us. This is episode 254, where we will review the Frew comics, the Shakti, Regal and Fantomen comics. I am Steve, g'day. And today we are welcoming both Dan and Jermayn. So in episode 253, we caught up on the news and newspaper stories. It was a big podcast, so we've split the podcasts up. So the last one, as you already know, was all about the news. This one's all about the latest stories, okay? Make it a little bit more palatable for everyone and not 4 hours long. Though for some of you who are going to Supernova, maybe you need 4 hours to on your drive or your travels. A lot of comics to get through this today. So for your listening pleasure, let's review them. First cab off the rank, we have Frew number 1943. This is Showdown at the Paradise Hotel, which also has Phantom Vietnam Story 7, but more on that in a minute. We'll just focus on the Paradise Hotel at the moment. Written, of course, by Claes Reimerthi and illustrated by Janusz. Ordon. It is the last episode in this latest chapter of the 22nd Phantom storyline. Now, Diana is getting closer to presenting her report that incriminates Colonel Zlotsky, as such, the vultures are throwing everything including the kitchen sink at her, really, in order to stop that report from getting out. Now, of course, the vultures do have connections high up in the UN, and really, Diana shouldn't be trusting anyone. She has a couple of people who she can trust, but of course, the vultures are going to get onto them and exploit that for what it's worth. And end up, Diana is they catch. I hope I can speak my English, but they end up catching Diana, and they're ready to size her up for a new concrete uniform. Now, will the Phantoms be able to get her in time? Of course they can. It's a Phantom comic. We're not going to lose Diana to being drowned in concrete. And so Diana, she's finally able to present the report, and heads are going to roll. And then we cut over to the namesake of the story, the actual Paradise Hotel. Why is it called Showdown at Paradise Hotel? Well, that's where Colonel Zlotsky is in hiding. And, of course, the vultures are there too. Now, the vultures are getting a little bit tired of Colonel Zlotsky, so if the Phantoms don't get him, maybe they just will. So the Phantoms are hot on his trail, but of course, even if the vultures, are falling out with Colonel Zlotsky, they're not going to let the Phantoms get him. So there's going to be a big fight. There will be a big, shall we say, a showdown at the Paradise Hotel, and that pretty much sums up this story right here. So, fellas, it's the last episode of of this current chapter. Did it end on a bang for you?
I kind of wish there was more. It's
more.
Yeah, it's problem with only 4 issues every 2-3 years is it takes you an issue or two to catch up. You got to listen and watch our video, which gives you a good catch up, and then you're getting into it, and then it stops again. So look, we've seen the crocodile eats the bad guy a few times. I like this end of this last scene here where the vultures are going to assassinate the bad vulture, or the what would a female vulture?
Cassie.
Yeah, what would a female vulture be? Would it be like a vulturette?
Vulturess, maybe.
Vulturess.
The one, and that when you're referring to the lady who's been hot on Dana's trail, trying to get her for the last however many episodes, and keep failing. And while the vultures, they don't suffer failure, and they're going to weed her out. Well, that's the plan. So
I liked her. I liked her as she was a good foil for Diana. It would almost be a disappointment if she's just killed out of,
I don't think she's going anywhere. She's there's too much going on with her, I reckon, and she's a formidable opponent, even though her fingers are a bit slippery.
Yeah, it would just be nice to see her back again. Not done to death, and like every, she always gets out of it. But maybe see her for a little bit longer might be interesting.
Well, what are your thoughts there, Dan?
Yeah, I think it's been set up really well for her to come back and continue to be that foil, as you say. But it's what's going to be fascinating, and I'm with you, Jim. I actually really enjoyed this. I've enjoyed, and I've said this on the podcast before, that I've enjoyed this series of the 22nd Phantoms saga, if you like, a lot more than I did the first installment. I thought the action in this was just sensational. There's so much to like about the way that the two Phantoms are depicted. They're working really well together at the moment, and they're bit of banter back and forth. But I like the way they're being the Phantom. We've talked in this podcast a number of times about how the 21st Phantom can be a bit of a stumbling hero at times. He just sort of bumbles around, gets whacked on the head, accidentally solves something.
Especially in the Fantomen story.
Yeah, is there when someone else solves it. So there is the danger of that with Phantom comics, I think. These two are just there's no bumbling about the way they're going around, following up on the bad guys here and bringing the vultures down. That image that you've got there on page 9 of Heloise slamming through the kitchen window is a fantastic. That's one of the most dynamic female Phantom images I think I've seen. I think that's fantastic.
And then doubling on your
sibling quip.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've got that huge action scene, which only lasts for 3 panels, and then you've got the brother, which you made mention. This is a perfect example on page 9, where he's going, "Oh, great time! You should spend more time in the kitchen."
Exactly.
I really liked it.
Yeah, and look, they're a great team, and they have a plan and they follow through. It's just. I really like the depiction of the fan. I'd love to know, and we talk about having more of it. Unfortunately, obviously, Claes Reimerthi, the author, passed, and his involvement with this is finished, and who knows where he might have taken it next. He may have had notes that had Kathy coming back, etc. But did he leave any notes? Has that been passed on to the team at Team Fantomen, who are going to work out where it goes next? I understand. Andreas is picking up the mantle on these?
Not confirmed yet. So Mikael Soul knew the direction. He knew the answer for your big question, Dan, which is Sandal Singh's child the Phantoms or not? So they obviously had talked about that, which is a thread in this saga. But both of them aren't involved in Team Fantomen stories anymore. So whether Mikael Soul comes back and writes this or whether it is Andreas, my money would be on Andreas. I think he understands the Phantom better than probably 95% of fans out there and creators. So he would be a good choice. But whether he would want to do it or not, we'll have to wait and see.
So you've touched on the art. Oh, sorry, you're still going with this one?
No. It'll be just fascinating to see who picks it up and where they take it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have to agree with you, Dan. When this saga was first published, and I didn't want it. I really, the 21 is the Phantom. And then, you kind of warm up to it. It's going to be, it's a future, and it's always in the future somewhere. And so, maybe okay. But this latest chapter has been phenomenal. And the way that these guys, the Kit and Heloise have developed, they work well together. It's like a perfect action movie. You've got the buddy cop type thing with the dialogue back and forth.
I reckon you two won't be the only diehard fans, Fawcus fans, who have probably changed their mind a bit as well.
I don't want to see it all the time. Every year or whatever, you have 3 or 4 stories. Next chapter, okay, but I don't want to see 12 months of 22nd Phantom saga.
And Claes has done it really well. Klaus, I think it's pronounced, has done it really well. He's taken us on that journey and developed it into this. And in this particular, Sundown at Paradise Hotel, there's barely a hint. There's certainly it's an unashamed 20-second Phantom story. Doesn't have any explanation of the context behind that. It's just get in. There's two Phantoms. That's how it is. And I actually enjoyed that. Now, whether that it's also a place where I think it would be easy to stuff it up. It really will depend on. And I'm with you, Steve. I wouldn't want to see it all year just because by sheer weight of numbers we'd see it get stuffed up.
Yeah,
I reckon 1 or 2, 1 to 3 issues a year, and I don't think they all have to be related.
No, absolutely not.
1 or 3 a year, I think, would be a really nice touch. And I think
it's been set up now for some standalone stories.
And I think it's been. And you raise. There's 2 things I want to say. You raise a good point about in this you're not worrying about the 21st Phantom in a sense. It's like this is the 22nd Phantom. And we're just focusing on that. That's still there, and we can still have stories that explore that, but we can still have just standalone weekly episodes in a sense, where you can just have one other thing I want to make mention is we talked about this last time we discussed these comics, which was episodes or chapters 1, 2, and 3, is here on page 6. Kit and Heloise are wearing glasses to hide their identity, and then
Kit's got the trench coat on too.
And you got the trench coat on, but then where are we? Here, they're not. Now, I know they're incognito, but you would still think that they would wear the glasses. So that was on page 16 as well. So I just thought that was worth pointing out.
Just back to page 16, Germ. The bottom left panel on page 16, they've got a version of the mask, but you can still see their eyes just with the way the shadow's been used. I think it's a clever use of shadow, but other artists would and for other Phantoms you wouldn't actually ever see their eyes. The shadow would be used exactly like that, but you wouldn't see the eyes.
Yeah, look, my biggest bugbear about this series, apart from the fact that we don't have any new parts, would be the fact that they're showing their eyes. And that's my biggest gripe with it.
That's because they're just playing the Phantom at the moment. They're not the Phantom.
Oh, yeah. And we discussed this part in the past.
We've done that before.
Episode, but it's still my biggest gripe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm still really keen to see how they solve the practical problem of a second skull ring.
True.
Rightio. Anything? The art is fantastic. We talk about the covers after we finish the Vietnam story, I guess. So the backup story for this one is a continuation of Paul Mason's Phantom in Vietnam saga, for lack of a better word. This episode is called "We Gotta Get Out of This Place," and I couldn't help. Not bad. Every time I love his titles because that music's just awesome. And what have I written down here? So we open up with the Rob Nope show, or the Rob Nope Christmas special, of course, a play on the old Bob Hope USO shows. Now, straight away, we're introduced to some old faves, the Marshall sisters. Now, the Marshall sisters are fresh off being the dual runners-up of the Miss America pageant, and apparently they sing now. So well done there, Marshall sisters, on doing so well in your chosen field. And they've been flown out to, as a reward, you've been flown out to Vietnam to entertain the troops. And of course, because it's a Phantom story, it's not all going to be smooth sailing. They're in the chopper and it comes down, and there's an adventure. I don't want to say too much because I don't want people to.
It's been out for 2 months.
Oh, it's been out for 2 months. Well, the chopper comes down. There's bad guys around. The pilot says, "Here, take a gun, shoot anything that moves." The agent is scared. He was talking a big game earlier on. And then he goes to water as soon as he's got the gun in his hand. And all of a sudden, out from the bushes, you don't need to worry about the Viet Cong because and I think this happened in the last episode too of this of the Vietnam story. When you first see the Phantom, it is so I don't know if dynamic's the right word, but it's
Ominous.
just
It's got a presence.
it is a real presence.
He's got an ominous presence.
In this one, he really does, and he's just emerging from the jungle. He's got the bag on his shoulder, and just of all the places to find you to, he's just going through all this. How Dragon one on the shoulder. Now got to deal with you guys. What are you two doing here?
It's very heroic, but it's also very human as well. Like he's like, oh great, my life's, if it's not more difficult, I've now got used to. So yeah.
But then later on, he's got a half smile on, and he helps them get to their USO show, and they go there and they entertain the troops. It's another like a Phantom story with that much Phantom on it. Like he's probably only there for 2 or 3 panels.
It was literally
1, 2, 3,
and on the next page.
Yeah.
It's a Marshall Sisters in Vietnam.
It's exactly what I was about to say there. Marshall Sisters story. So
there's also one other person. I reckon. Let's zoom in on the splash page. I reckon that's a Jack Reacher lookalike. Right up near the wording of Rob Nope Christmas Special. You got. I
was trying to look through there.
Yeah, you got a rather chuffed looking. He would have to be what? You would have to be a colonel or a major or something like that. But yeah, no, I did look as well. Did anyone? I wonder if anyone else spotted any other little cameos in that lot.
Oh, if you actually saw yourself.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I reckon that top one. That top one is a Jack Reacher lookalike.
And that guy you just had on there, the bottom left with the glasses, I don't know who that is, but I reckon it's someone.
Someone he knows?
Yeah. Yeah,
that guy with the glasses, I reckon that's someone Paul knows.
So,
I love these little Easter eggs he puts into it.
Yeah, important.
Yeah.
Greta or Lana? Which one was your favourite Marshall sister?
Which one's which?
Oh, they come as a package still,
the
mate.
The blonde or the brunette?
Oh, I don't know. Package deal. That's what I thought. You can't have the other.
I like Greta, who was the brunette. I always just thought she was a little bit nicer than Lana, who I thought was a little bit too mean and a little bit And maybe that's because I remember the fight of Lana and Diana having the fight between each other. That had to get a bucket of water thrown over the two of them to separate them.
Yes, but that's in a very old story. What did you think of them in this one?
Look, I liked in the folk stories. They were very capable. When we first introduced to them, they were explorers. They, archaeologists or that type of people. So, I'm not surprised that they would grab the machine guns and the gun and just start blasting to protect them and to protect, Suki Lala boys. So, you're not surprised by that. And, I think the Vietnam stories are very heavy, and he's managed to put a lighter story, so to speak, a story that's not dripping in, walls and people dying and he's done it rather.
It's a bit of relief.
Yeah, it's a relief in a very heavy saga.
Like a Bob Hope Christmas special.
Exactly like.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And when this is pulled together as a trade paperback, as I so desperately hope it is at some point, this would make a nice little break from, because Paul's work is pretty intense, and even this demonstrates the level of research that's gone into it, because these shows that were taken over for the troops and that sort of thing absolutely happened. And I seem to remember Bob Hope getting over to Vietnam I seem to remember hearing news that I wasn't there, obviously.
So are you that old? Were you around then?
No wonder he's a Falkist.
But no wonder you're a Falkist.
I'm sure that Bob Hope did do tours of Vietnam. So it's completely and the way that he's been able to bring the Marshall sisters into Vietnam through the former what do we say, Miss American pageant. And I love that they were dual runner-up. They weren't dual winners, just that little they're runners-up. I really like this story. I've had been on the record of saying I like the Phantom in Vietnam stories, and this is just we use the term a lot on the podcast. It's a fun story. It's a cool, fun little story, which you don't necessarily expect from this sequence of stories, but you still have got some really cool fandom action right at the death.
Mm. And now the cover. I haven't spoken about the covers for this issue. Alex Tripp, yep. So guest at the Phantom dinner in Supernova, and is the front cover. The back cover, of course, is Paul Mason with the Phantom in Vietnam style illustration there. Yeah, I think all the covers from memory of the latest 22nd Saga Phantom have just been awesome. We've had Alex Tripp, we've had Grange. Who else have we had there?
Lauren Marshall did another one.
Marshall, yeah.
Now, Steve, in our interview with Alex Tripp, which was episode 249, I believe, or 248.
Oh, you can say any, I believe you.
Yeah, you talked about your one criticism with Alex was his beefiness of the Phantom. Is this one a little bit less beefier, or is it still too beefy for you?
I don't mind the beefy. It's not really a criticism. It's really, really good. It's excellent. Like, I'm not saying, but it's also what a lot of other people, the way other people depict him and depict superheroes in general. The illustration is awesome, but there's nothing overly unique. Whereas someone like a Paul Mason or even a Jason Paulos is unique. Now, whatever style you like, there's a style out there for you. I wouldn't say it's a criticism at all. I think he's got both Kit and Heloise in perfect physical condition for being the Phantom. You expect him to be big and strong. Well, I do anyway. I know there's a lot of people who like him a lot thinner and more athletic, but my Phantom in my head is got a bit more meat on his bones.
Yeah, I do prefer a more lithe and athletic Phantom. I've got to remember though, this isn't the 21st Phantom anymore. This is his son, and so maybe his son has beefed out like that. Well, I think he's supposed to only be 21 or 22, so he's still got a.
He's looking more like 29 or 30 there with the.
Yeah, that's where I was going, and I think I like the depiction of Heloise. I think she might be a little bit overly endowed though.
Probably in that. Yeah.
So, do you reckon King Features would have the conversation like they did with Ash from the board game about decreasing by 15%?
I think they'd be wise. I think that's about right.
But it actually in the comic, everything seems pretty good. There was another thing I was going to say. I've lost it now.
Oh well.
I was going to say about this while you think, Steve. Alex seems to have solved the problem of the rings in that Heloise is wearing the skull ring and Kit is wearing the good mark.
That works.
Not quite sure how that matches up with the skull mark that's on the villain's face. But anyway, either way, Alex has decided they need to be wearing rings, and I'm a fan for it.
Well, yeah, there is a second ring. The fourth Phantom created a duplicate spare ring, so they can both have the skull mark.
The problem is that 21 has disappeared, and I assume his ring's still on his finger.
Well, there's that spare one. So if you can make one spare one, you can probably make two spare ones.
That's right. And Paul's on the back. I mean, we just love. I love his Phantom in Vietnam work. Interesting that the humidity has finally gotten to him, and he's removed the chest and arms part of the purple suit. Still wearing the cowl though, so he's still our Phantom, even though he's going bare chested through the Vietnamese jungle.
Yeah, he looks a bit beaten up there. He's a bit scratched up, isn't he?
He is
put together.
I think now. I'm not going to. Please don't quote me on this one, but I think the original of this was actually donated at the last dinner 33 of the Leafort Memorial Benguela Explorers Club dinner.
Well, when you say donated, I hope it was purchased by Frew so that they could use it for exactly this colour.
Okay, we're done with that one. Next one is Frew number 1944, the latest edition in the Collector's Replica series. Now, within that, we have stories, the Singh Brotherhood Part 2, Dr. Axel and the Witchman, Captain Kidder's Treasure, and the Slimming of Prince Tagon, with the cover by Glenn Ford, which apparently that one is probably what most people are talking about straight up, is the cover.
Most talked about cover, I reckon, of 2023.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Glenn has been on a bit of a purple patch lately with his covers for the Collector's Replica. The noir style art on some recent ones were I think everyone agreed was awesome. The last one wasn't that style, and now this one it just didn't fit right, I don't think, or just didn't seem quite up to his usual standards, unfortunately. Still a heck of a lot better than what I could do.
Yeah, look, yes, it's probably not going to win the best cover of 2023, but I thought some of the commentary was a little bit childish.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the commentary on Facebook. It's
even before it came out, the messages that we were getting.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't see the message you guys did.
Yeah, personally, I don't think this is Glenn's worst cover either. But look, yeah. I just thought it would be worth making mention. It's not his best cover. It's not his worst cover. I think some of the pile-on was a little bit childish. Have you noticed that they put 4 issues in here?
I did notice that.
I
was wondering, is that because
and 94
try and get the like it was 200 issues, isn't it? So to try and get
so that means we're only halfway.
Yeah. But if it's only halfway, you start putting 4 issues in there, it's only got 25 to go.
So if you do 4 a year, what's that in maths?
We'll do 5 a year, and that's 4 years.
Yeah, there you go. So you're still looking at 4 or 5 years.
Oh, just on that, if it comes down to a page count, this one's 108 pages, whereas the previous replica number 34 was 100 pages. So it's only an extra 8 pages to fit a whole second, 4th story. And so I don't know, maybe they'll just go 3 or 4 depending on how many they get around that 100-page mark.
Yeah. If I had to choose my favourite story out of these 4, it would be the Slimming of Prince Tagon, because it's a fun story. We've seen several of those ones where someone has to go on a health Biggest Loser challenge, so to speak. Steve, you and I know a bit about that.
Story could have loser.
Know about the losing the weight and stuff like that. But yeah, no, that was a fun story. I thought the Captain Kidder's Treasure was good in the sense that it featured a past Phantom. It would have been one of the first times there was a past Phantom explored by Lee Falk. And then, of course, you got the Singh Brotherhood, which is the first ever story, and the Dr. Axel gives you a good origin story as well. So, but out of the 4, mine would be the Slimming of Prince Tagon. It's the type of story
it's interesting. It's interesting that you went with the Slimming of Prince Tagon because, of course, everyone knows the Singh Brotherhood, but out of the rest of them, that's the one I know.
Yeah.
Like if I just saw that, like I haven't read the thing, but the 4 titles, well, apart from the Singh Brotherhood, so out of the 3 titles, I know the Slimming of Prince Tagon. I like that story. It's a fun, like you said, absolutely, it's a fun story. It's a recognisable story. What about you, Dan? Did you read this one, or are you just going from memory?
I like both of those stories, and the Singh Brotherhood's a classic, obviously. But I'll chip in and give Captain Kidder's Treasure a bit of a pump up because I really like. I love Wilson McCoy's art. The older I get, the more I like it, I think. I love his depiction of the way.
Were you around when he was still drawing the stories?
Oh, yeah, of course. I remember being a bit disappointed when he took over from Ray Moore, but then he's grown on me ever since. I love the way he depicts the tunnel under the into the jungle patrol from the well under the. It's just a very simple cross section, but it just appeals to me. And I like that this story has got the bad guys seeing artwork and that sort of thing of previous phantoms as well, like, almost primitive cave art phantoms on the walls, letting him know, geez, this guy's been around for how many hundreds of years? So it really beds down for a story that's just a bit random and isn't going to be on anyone's favourites. It helps establish the tropes of the Phantom. I really like that.
Yeah,
I'll have to go and give it a read. Well, I'll find it when it's in a non-edited version and give it a read there. Okay, we're up to 1945.
Yep,
1945, which is The Visitor, the Tony DePaul Sunday story, illustrated by Jeff Weigel, of course. There is a backup story, more on that in just a moment. But before we go any further, rather than talk about the story first, let's talk about this cover. Glenn Lumsden has put out 2 covers in this latest batch, and this is extraordinary. I really, really like this cover.
Yeah,
glad you've led with the cover, Steve, because I absolutely agree. This it's one of those ones that you got it out. I got it out of the subscription envelope and did a double take at the size and the emotion on Diana's face in particular. That really grabbed me in the first instance. I don't know we've seen Diana featured so heavily on a cover for a long time. And yeah, it's just a great image. And then you fold it open, and while there's a lot of I guess dead space, if you like, on the back cover, it would still make an outstanding poster, I think.
No, I reckon it's like it could have put in the dead space, if you like. It could have been another title there for the final story, or if it was a Phantom Vietnam story, you could have had the little line there, the title, to make sure it wasn't so cluttered in the front,
or even just like a little insert box.
Yeah, something like that. And the attention to detail, like even the good, I didn't notice this until I just opened it again. The good mark ring in the bottom right hand corner, like it is so bold and dynamic. This cover, I really, really like it, and an early call for cover of the year, that's for sure.
I think just
the cross hatching, the attention to detail is top notch, and Glenn does that. When we did our podcast with him, he talks about the level of detail and how he zooms right in when he's on the computer, and then he'll spend an hour doing this little thing, and he'll scroll out, and then he can't even see what he's spent the last hour on. So it's interesting they got Glenn to do it and not Jeff, who's actually the author of the story, which we'll go through in a second. That's possibly the only question mark I have. Maybe Jeff couldn't do it with deadlines and timelines.
There's also, Frew don't always or often, to be honest, use the same artist for the cover as the story art. They've done it sometimes to very good effect. And I guess Jason Paulus is one who everyone's on the record of saying how quickly he produces stuff, and that helps have his covers on his own stories, but they don't do it heaps, I don't reckon.
Yeah, not as much as they used to. Pre-COVID, they did, but it's just something in that. It's just something that I noticed. I wonder if there was a reason why Jeff didn't do it. And then, like we talked about, also like with the annuals as well, like the Graham Nolan.
When you're doing a Graham Nolan special, I feel like you should. We all, we don't.
And that's just a kind of like an observation of. I wonder if there was a reason why Jeff didn't do the cover.
Yeah. Well, Jeff definitely illustrated the story, and the story is about a mysterious visitor who lurks around in the Skull Cave. And he does venture from the Skull Cave as well, and doesn't tend to speak. People see him and think it's the Phantom, and yet they've been seeing this ghost for a couple of hundred years now, or for lack of a better word, I'm going to call him a ghost who happens to be walking. I think first witnessed by the third Phantom, also by, what was it? I want to say the 16th might have been another one. Oh, here we go. 3rd, 6th, 12th, and 16th. So by 4 Phantoms. This mysterious visitor has met or has interacted in some way with at least the people around those Phantoms. And so this story is really like a ghost story, like the Phantom telling a ghost story about this mysterious visitor. And making sure that he's telling this story to the younger generation of the Bandar tribe, so they can go on and tell the story, so that they're listening. And but even more so, forget about the visitor and whether the story drags, whether you like the visitor or not. This was a story that introduced the new Hall of Costumes, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So
the updated version. Before it was just a wooden cupboard.
Yeah, wooden cupboards, some coat hangers, and we see different costumes for different generations of Phantoms. And I think they're drawn really good, and you can see why they've done it. I still don't like it. I do like the Phantom generation cards, or that poster with all the different things. Nothing against the art. I just like my Phantom to always be wearing the same thing to give that continuity. But that's not the way that they've gone in the newspaper. Even with the latest Sunday story with the Temple of the Gods, you see a depiction of I think it's the third Phantom on the big wall, and it's drawn like in the costumes here. We see the champion man or whatever it is in the pub, and the Phantom's depicted with a bit more of a floppy hood rather than the skin type cowl. We pretty much spoke about this story back when it was published in 2021 in the newspapers. Has it aged well over the last couple of years, Dan?
I always do like reading them in comic book format rather than day to day, Sunday to Sunday. The Sundays, I think, are easier to do that with because you have a whole week to make sure you've read the last panel, which was a half page. Like most of these are 2/3 to 3/4 of a page in the Frew book, as they've been published there in the vertical format. I do still especially like those panels that were just on the still you had just a moment ago, Germ, where Jeff Weigel was paying tribute to Seuj Barry's artwork with regard to the Phantom fighting their Jungle Patrol members and remembering that part of the story as he touches on that Phantom because he saw the Visitor as well. Is the Visitor itself, is that, I don't know, my jury is still, yeah. I like the way it's being used as a plot point to give us a little bit of a hint of all of these other past Phantoms and reinforce that lineage. But the actual idea of an apparition linked to the Phantom and the Skull Cave somehow I'm still not sold on.
So who is the Visitor? And do you think we'll see another story about this thing? Like, will he come and rescue the Phantom in a story 2, 3, 4 years ago or something like that?
Yeah,
I think.
Sorry, you go, Dan.
Oh, sorry, Steve. Look, if I was Tony, I wouldn't. That's what I would say about that. I suppose you're allowed to have standalone stories that don't connect all over the place. There's countless examples of them in the Phantom lineage, especially the newspaper stories. Lee Falk's been critiqued for that because he never really paid attention. You can pay too much attention and feel like you've got to connect every single thing back, I think.
Yep. Stephen, anything to add?
There was something, I just can't remember. There was a throwaway word or throwaway line, and I can't remember what it was now.
I'm not sure I would have liked to see the Visitor back.
Oh no, I don't want to see him back, but he could well come back. I did the old Google Translate on the Latin poem. It was all about living straight, living long, rather than making rash decisions, I think.
Okay.
And maybe that's what that's what I want. Yeah, that's right. I think someone makes a comment about the Visitor turning up just before he's about to do something rash, or go out without thinking. Got to nut things out and plan accordingly. When was this in relation to the Phantom going to Gravelines and the Moz story? Don't go and rush into something too full-headedly. You've got to sit down. You've got to plan it out better, and rather than be too headstrong and just think you can do everything off your own back. So I think there was a bit of maybe a nice little
little crossover between the
yeah, kind of crossover, but a bit of a link there anyway. Well, that's what I was thinking. Try and
So do you think this? Oh, sorry, go.
Oh, just even as you're flicking through this on the screen for YouTube listeners, Germ, or flicking through the comic, reading through the comic, it gave me a new appreciation every time it does for Jeff Weigel's art. He's just he's got that realistic, but still, I love his artwork. I love his depiction. I'm so glad we've got him on the Sundays.
Yeah. Now, what I was doing is I was just trying to see if I could actually, before we knew that the visitor was listening to the story, was to actually see if there was any eyes.
Any hint that he was there?
Yeah, and I couldn't find any.
In the Hall of Costumes?
Yeah, in the Hall of Costumes, or say, for instance, like this here, this down the bottom. So we're looking at a panel on the 4th of July 2021. There's a picture of Diana, the Phantom, Garan, and some Banda tribesmen, and in the background there's blackness. And so I'm looking for like scenes like that, and it's just seeing two little white little triangles, to kind of hint that there is someone watching in the background, but I couldn't see any.
And it's really interesting, the last part with Devil coming in, and then the visitor kind of taking its shape, or Devil's shape.
Yeah,
I got an inkling that Phantom kind of knows what it is. Just a couple of things that he said,
It doesn't
the
seem
animal spirit will
surprised.
understand. Yeah, he kind of knows what's going to happen, so he's got an idea of what's about to happen. Now, even though Devil hasn't made it into the cave yet, if you look on page 31, the visitor is looking off to the side, so he knows that Devil's coming, and he's bracing himself for it even before it was mentioned.
Do you think the story reads better as a comic or in the?
Yes.
Yeah.
It does mention it's from another realm though, so maybe that's a hint.
I don't know.
Now, are we good for that?
Yeah.
Yep. So we've gone with the huge supernatural element. Like it relies heavy on it. There's a creature from another realm. Our backup story for this issue, which comes after the forum letter, so you got to read well, if you're not a forum fan and you just close the book after forum
letters are some of the best stuff that goes on. There's some cracking responses in there.
Yep, you got to read them. Dudley does a great job. But there's a nice little 2-page story, which you could say has a supernatural element, but of course it's not. It's because criminals are a superstitious bunch, and they don't see the Phantom. The Phantom works in shadows, and he lurks in the darkness. And you don't see him. The Phantom sees you, and you don't see him, and he's quick as lightning. Of course, this fella thinks that he's just been hit by this purple fog, this mysterious fog that's just gave him a whack on the chin, and he's got a purple chin. And the fact is, the other crims there in the jail all agree with him, because they say, that's exactly what happened to me. I didn't see what got me. It must have been that fog. Bang.
And this is where all the like the jungle sayings, all those type of elements that we love. We love the jungle sayings. We love all the faster than strength for 10 tigers, faster than lightning. Moves around like a fog, and all this type of stuff. We love all that stuff, and that's what I like about this. To be honest, some of these short stories that we've been receiving recently, like in the last year, which have been previously published by Team Fantomen, I actually think they're some of the better stories that we have actually seen in the last year or two. Just because they're short, they're punchy, they add to the lore of the Phantom. They're fun. I would like to see more of this type of stuff.
What about you, Dan?
I agree with wanting to see more of them. I'd have to have a proper think about it to see if I thought these were some of the best stories we've seen. This, I think, is the best of this series that I've enjoyed the most, because there's literally, not because, but what I like about it is there's literally not a single existing Phantom character. in this, like it's not trying to tell, and we'll speak about the one in the Giant Size about this, a story from Garan or a story from Rex or a story from whatever, Diana, Heloise. There's literally no Phantom characters in this, and yet it's a complete Phantom story. It's really cool. Only 2 pages. I like the fact that it wasn't, noted on the cover anywhere, because it was such a, I've said this before about these stories. The surprise of finding one in there is really cool. I'm halfway through the forum letters. Good. It's another story. That was so well done.
Yeah, that was a very pleasant surprise. Thank you very much, Dudley.
So this story is actually, hang on, let me just double confirm.
Mikael Sol, isn't it?
Yeah, Mikael Sol. So Alan Som is his, what do you say it? The Poseidon or? Yeah.
Pseudonym.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I like about this is that it's a different style. It's not Cyberry. It's a real cartoony look and something like that. But I think that works to try and get other types of fans, and this might, the art style might be aimed more towards the younger readers, but a younger reader's going to look at this and they're going to enjoy it because it's 2 pages long. It captures their attention. It doesn't, they don't have to focus too much. So yeah.
It's coming for the TikTok generation.
Yeah, exactly. It could, very good way of putting it. Now, I reckon all the new creators out there, whether this is for Team Fantomen or whether it's for Frew or, hopefully, in future the Indian guys and in US and stuff like that, if you want to create Phantom stories, I think that you should have to create these short style Phantom stories before you get a bigger 22 multi-page story, because it allows you to I just think it's a good breeding ground.
Yes and no. You might have an idea for a big 22 story, but you don't have an idea for a 2-page story. But I see what you mean. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good breeding ground for for the next Phantom creator.
So, through issue 1946, A New Hope. No, it's not Star Wars. This one's written by Mikael Sol with artwork by Anthony Spey, and the cover, of course, by Jason Paul. I still even have to search for the signature on that one. That is definitely Jason's work.
Yes.
There we are there.
Yeah.
You can see it.
Stands out, doesn't he?
Yeah. And same as Paul Mason, it's unique. Whether you like it or not, it's, of course, it's always subjective, but there's nothing simple. It's very unique, very much him.
Yeah.
My only criticism with the cover is, I don't know how you would have done it, but I would have loved to seen a homage to the Star Wars A New Hope in some way. Just,
sued by Disney?
Well, like it would just be kind of like, yeah, that's A New Hope. And like, for instance, I'm not sure the Team Fantomen covers is a real homage to Barack Obama's presidential candidate poster.
Yes. Yeah. I thought the bad guy here looks like Vigilante off the Peacemaker TV show. If anyone's seen that one, or Peacemaker, Peacekeeper, the John Cena one from Suicide Squad. Or Vigilante's his own comic in his own right too. But it's not. I
thought it was a G.I. Joe. I thought
G.I. Joe, yeah.
Like it's like Snake Eyes or something from G.I. Joe.
Anyway, this story, A New Hope, it opens with the Phantom on the Isle of Eden with the much-loved characters Steggy and his. And then he goes and frolics with his dolphins.
Solomon and Nefertiti. It's great. The whole gang's back together.
Yeah, they are, and it's just nice to see. And then I think we even get Jumbo a little bit later on. I'm assuming that's Jumbo that Garan is riding. Well, mind you, he's riding an elephant while on his iPad or his tablet. So it's the old and new. It's definitely a modern story. Anyway,
they must Deep Woods must be accessing Starlink for him to be able to be reading those news stories as he's riding through the Deep Woods.
Yeah, they've got all sorts of technology in the Deep Woods that we just haven't seen yet. There's a tower hidden in the palm trees or something like that. Anyway, the New Hope is all about the upcoming.
Isn't it 4G?
It'll be 5G now, wouldn't it?
5G, yeah.
Or 21G because it's the Phantom. A New Hope references the upcoming election in Bangala. So what's her name? Sandal Singh I think people think that she's dead. Otherwise, she's not around to lead the country anymore. So we need a new election. We've got 3 candidates up. Their name, one is an old general. I didn't write his name down. Badru Zuberi, who was a general in not Lawaga, what was the other one? Labanga. In his presidency. We also have a little mama's boy who, what was his name again?
No.
I should have written that one down.
It'll be on the back, won't he?
Mr. Movic.
Mr. Movic, that's right. And of course, the front runner, and the on the back.
Campaign poster on the back cover.
Yeah, and the front runner was Helena Satoya. Now, little mama's boy is used to getting what he wants. He's used to mummy cleaning up his messes. And so mummy makes sure that Helena Satoya is out of the picture. And because he doesn't think that the general's going to have much of a hope. And this sets the scene to allow Lamanda Lawaga to re-enter the presidency. If there's no clear good candidate, we go back to the old clear candidate. And pretty much here's a spoiler alert. Lawaga's back in. Lawaga becomes president again. What this story does, it realigns Fantomen universe with the newspaper universe in the sheer fact that we've got Lamanda Lawaga as the president of Bangala. This is what this story accomplishes. Nothing more, nothing less. It wraps up in 22 pages, and it could have been a heck of a lot more. Like this could have been a big 3-issue story about, I remember in the 90s when it had the Lawaga versus Labanga, and and the big things that have been going on with General Bababu throughout the years. These can be big, awesome stories where there's deceit, where there's double cross, where there's political intrigue, but no, it's pretty much wrapped up in 20 odd pages, and the bad guys get what they want, and everyone gets what they want because Lawaga becomes president again. Would have been interesting having this Helena Satoya as the president. Would she be as good as everyone thought she was? Apparently the general thought she wasn't that good because she bought biscuits with people's funds, apparently, or something like that. I thought that was fairly weak, but just goes to show how bad that general character was, that he didn't have a hope. Not a strong story, but it accomplishes what it needs to do. That's my
paper. I tend to agree with you. I think, look, I enjoyed the Labanga series. I enjoyed aspects of Sandal Singh as president. I'm not sure we needed a third ongoing long saga. I think Focus should be happy because now Team Fantomen and newspaper stories are back together on the same keel. But yeah, so I think it was wise to wrap it up in one story instead of a long saga.
Yeah. What do you think, Dan?
I'm probably more with you, Steve, in the sense that a 3 or 4 parter to get this happening would have done justice to the way we got here, I think. Because there were epic sagas that those other characters went through. And I don't mean that this needs to be an epic, goes on for years and years and years, but 3 or 4 parter would have been good. I just found, I don't know, I'm with you. I liked what you said there about it. It gets Lager back in the presidency, nothing more, nothing less. It is a weak story. I feel the character of Movic is just so pathetic that it's hard to believe that he could possibly be a candidate. Surely someone sees, it was just so over the top that it wasn't a realistic or genuine chance at the presidency.
I like that. I like that.
I think it was like a throwback to Trump because no one expected him. Because you're rich, you should be president.
The only reason why I would have liked to seen more than one part story is for this is for, what do we call it, Bola or
Miss Bola. So I was going to get on that. I think the strongest part of this story is her.
Yeah,
but having a a 3 or 4 part story would have allowed those other characters to be stronger, and you would be able to do more with.
Yeah.
So, Movic could have been more than just a whimpering little.
Movic reminds me of the guy out of 2040, Rebecca Madison's son.
Oh yeah.
With Baudelaire, the cat.
The cat. And like the general could have been more of a threat there too. Like he could have been a bumbling comic foil, but it could have been a stronger threat.
He could have been like a General Babu.
Yeah, could have, but we don't want a carbon copy of him.
No, but
otherwise you just have the general.
And that's why I think it was good to have it wrapped up in one story. But if we were to get a longer story, I would have liked to see more of this.
Well, I think we should get more of Miss. Oh, she got captured in the end by Miss Mist. Oh, what's her name?
Sarah Cartwright.
Sarah Cartwright. But hopefully that's not the last we see of Miss Bow. And before we start, I actually asked Jerm, should we know who this Miss Bow is? Is this someone that has come in before? And he said, oh, no. So I think she's got legs. And I mean, that she's got an ongoing, she could have an ongoing presence.
Yeah, no. She was good. I liked her as a character. So
I agree to a point because we don't really find out enough about her, and that's again the shame of this only being a quick little 22-pager. There's no real backstory to. She's just an elite trained assassin who wears a overly robotic outfit for mine. That seems I find that off-putting as we go through the costume choice for her. Doesn't really make a lot of sense unless she's trying to be a superhero. I don't know.
It kind of just looked like a motorcycle gear with her leathers and fancy helmet.
Yeah. Anyway, I would have been interested in a bit of a backstory and her to have escaped a bit better at the end. She's not necessarily going to get involved in it again because she's clearly a mercenary and she's getting involved for the money. Anyway,
but if she had escaped, it could have allowed for her to return in another story.
Yeah, I'm sure they can work it out.
But anyway, as you say, job done. Lager's back in the presidency. They don't have to edit as hard, and that saves all sorts of headaches when their Team Fantomen are trying to get newspaper stories into their comic books. It's an editing job they don't have to do now, and I'm pleased for them in that front.
Awesome.
Very good. Now, the backup story, I'll say backup, but I reckon...
Oh, sorry, one last thing on that story before we go on. Worth noting that the artwork is by Anthony Spade, and I do really like the way, for what I've said about costume choices and that sort of thing on Miss Boa, I really like Anthony Spade's version of the Phantom, and we've just had a conversation about lithe and athletic versus muscular and bodybuilding type thing. I think he's right in that middle ground, Anthony Spade, in a really...
He's not too American.
Pleasing way to me, and that again, it just fills me with hope for the video game that he's doing all the animation for. I think it's going to be a really good Phantom for a video game.
Yeah, excellent. It's definitely more muscular than say, but it's not too Americanized.
Yeah. It's a lot more muscular than a Wilson McCoy, certainly. But Freddie Williams, that cover, hugely muscular. You condom filled of walnuts. This is somewhere in the middle, I reckon, which is he's done well.
Yeah. Cool. And when we mentioned about the presidency, of course, so if you'd like a history of the presidents of Bengal, you can check out Chronicle Chamber. We have a article there from 2019 that Mikael Lyck has done for us. So if you want to check out the roller coaster ride that is the Presidents of Bengala and Team Fantomen, please check that out.
Ask Mikael to do an update now that this story's out.
Well, that's what that article was originally written for, was when this appeared in Team Fantomen.
Oh, right. Okay.
Oh, right, yeah. So it's 4 years old.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, crikey.
Yeah.
Well, something that's not 4 years old. In fact, I think it's only be 1 year old, judging by the date there in the corner there, 2022. Shane Foley has written a story called Ghost Walkers. It's a futuristic fan story. When I say futuristic, it's the near future. So we're not talking like everyone's wearing those Apple goggles now.
But it's a dystopian near future.
It's a bit Mad Maxy. Welcome to the jungle. We've got fun and games. But what was I going to say? There was a couple... dystopian future. Things are run down. I do like there's a Kate Summit, was it the Somerset Foundation? I really like that.
Yeah, that was good.
I smiled. I thought that was really, really good.
That's the pirate queen, right?
Yeah, who became a nun and stuff like that. And
like it.
Yeah, and that's who they're going to try and rob. And we got a couple of bad guys. There's only two bad guys. We don't really know who they are. They're masked. We don't know if they're affiliated with anybody at the moment. More on that later. And I like how these guys run on the smell of an oily rag or something to that effect. But the other guy goes, yeah, but these type of places tend to have a different type of security, and you just kind of smile. You know where this is going. We're going to have some sort of, well, it's a Phantom comic. Where's the Phantom's going to come in? Yeah, this different type of security. And of course, they get blocked. But is this Phantom the Phantom? Because we've got Ghost Walkers, apparently, is what they're called. And are they just people dressed up as the Phantom, and they're kind of like a group of phantoms, and with the main guy directing people from his skull cave? Is it a bunch of robots? Because just judging by the look on his wrist, it kind of sent me back to the last Phantom, where they had I think it was the Jungle Patrol, which were kind of like undercover or guerrilla style people in the city. There's a reference to Devil, who looks like some sort of flying lizard thing with tentacles. It's an interesting concept. We're going to this, we had Andrew Constant explore a robotic or a future Phantom. Now we've got Shane Foley, who's exploring this concept of a not too distant future Phantom. And of course, we've got bad guys as well that don't come into the last splash page there, who I'm going to assume are the Sing pirates, but I could be completely wrong. Our ancient foes lives on after all, so I'm assuming it's the Sing.
Would have been cool to see one of those little 7 circles symbols.
I was looking out for that one.
Say that 7 times quickly.
Yeah.
On that page somewhere. But you're right. It is set up to be the Sing Brotherhood, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what's interesting I find about this story is, like, Shane Foley's a man of detail. He's, a lot like Tony DePaul, where he's thinking about things. I reckon he would have a whole mini arc laid out for these stories if this kind of happens. So
I think it's more than a mini arc. I think he's got a whole big thing going on.
So in the end, it seems our ancient foe lives on after all, which you made mention, Steve. So it means like they think that the Ghost Walker, aka the Phantom, has died. And if you turn back a page, so that was on page 32. If you turn to page 31, you've got Ghost Walker 2 checking in. And then
his name's Garan.
And then, that's what we're getting at. This Phantom who is in the Skull Throne says, okay, thanks, Garan, with the double N. So you're right. There's more than one. And then this Phantom on the Skull Throne, he looks injured, which is the reason why he's probably almost suffered a death, i.e. that's why the Sing Pirates or whoever it was said it seems he lives on, because they're assuming he's dead. So so it's sort of similar. I just, there's a story there.
It's much a Ray Moore style Phantom too.
Yeah, I reckon there's room to explore this. So I'm intrigued where he'll go. Maybe it might work better in a giant size because it's a futuristic, a utopian, while we're looking at Planet Man and stuff like that. But I like it. I like how Shane Foley's just given us a little tease, and it seems, and like what Andrew Constant and Massimo Gamberi did when they did their little one, it's like, hey, do you like it? Let us know, and then maybe we'll explore it again. So,
I like the new Skull Ring too. There was a futuristic one with the added triangle there, and you got these spheres going around in the Skull Cave. There, it looks like I don't know, little orbs of jungle or something going on.
Yeah, and look, the orbs is a real futuristic type of thing in the future. That's
where we've said a few times about it being the near future. It'd be interesting to know where Shane pins this down in terms of the near future, like that rally car or buggy type thing on the first page of the story. That could be a 2020 or 2010 model vehicle, but then you're right. There's a floating screen in front of the Phantom on the Skull Cave and these orbs and the robotic dragon devil thing.
The guy's got the little Rocketeer style jet boots.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even the architecture, it's hard to know exactly how far into the future we'd see. So it'd be interesting for Shane to narrow this down. Is he talking? We've just talked about, and on first reading, I didn't enjoy this story. Second reading, I didn't enjoy this story. I appreciate the concept. I'd probably like to know. It's challenging when you're trying to do future Phantoms, and I'm not sure when Andrew Constant set his robot Phantom. Was that supposed to be the 30th or the 40th? We've had Phantom 2040, which was the 24th Phantom, I think. We've had Defenders of the Earth Phantom. He was what number Phantom is Defenders of the Earth Phantom supposed to be?
I think it was the 27th. I think.
Yeah, so this is the challenge with projecting future stories, knowing which future will go down. And
we did do a Phantom podcast on futuristic Phantoms. I'm not sure if you guys remember that.
Yes, of course. But
in the past, we're talking about the future.
Yeah, no, but that's kind of the point. Like this version of a dystopian Earth, and whatever's happened in the Phantoms universe to cause at least 2 Ghost Walkers, one of which is a Garand character reporting. There's enough changes to what we understand the Phantom lineage to be here as well, and the way they operate to be interesting. So. Yeah, I don't know. I'd be interested to see a few more of these. Maybe they'll grow on me the same way that the 22nd Phantom saga did, because again, as we were saying earlier, didn't enjoy that in the start, but got used to it, and maybe this is a good take. But so I guess Shane will have pages of this drawn and ready to go. This was from last year before that he drew this, so it's probably all just sitting there waiting to be published. Is Giant Size the right place? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
Giant Size seems to be a place where you can just trial things, and so backup stories are also a good opportunity to trial things. So
yeah, exactly.
And I think this is what I was talking about before, is that these backup stories are great breeding grounds, testing sections, to be able to have all this type of stuff. So
for ideas, not necessarily for artists.
I even reckon artists.
Yeah, well, it depends. Like I think you said before about must do a little, as long as you're allowed to still have a Phantom story, not you must do a story that's got no Phantom in it, sort of thing.
Oh yeah, no. So like a backup, which is what these are. These are anywhere between 2 to 4 to 6 to 8 pages. I think, before you get trusted with a 22-page story, so to speak, or a multi-part story, you should be tested on these little small ones.
It's a different style of writing, though.
Yeah, and if it's good enough, if a 22-pager comes in and Dudley goes, oh, actually, this is pretty good. No, sorry, I haven't seen you do an 8-pager yet, so we can't publish it. But just publish what's good.
Moving on, that's all the Frew regular series now. Now we have Giant Size, once again, covered by Glenn Lumsden. Phenomenal. Absolutely.
I saw this and I thought, where's all the rest of the heroes? Why have they only got Phantom and a couple of others? Where's everybody? And then you open it up and go, oh, wow, there
they are. That is brilliant. Sorry, I just stopped there to appreciate it again. So this is a bumper issue. It's the Giant Size annual. There's 10 stories in there. We've got the Phantom Commando. There's also a Garand short story. There's Sir Falcon, the Panther, the Phantom Ranger, the Shadow, Catman, Death of Sir Falcon, so a second Sir Falcon story in there, Planet Man, and the Raven. Now, even though there's only one Phantom story, I haven't had a chance to read all of these stories. I've read most of them. And so I've read the Phantom, the Garand story. I've read the Phantom Commando, Sir Falcon, the Death of Sir Falcon, Planet Man, and the Raven. So I skipped the few in the middle because I only just got this, yesterday, so I ran out of time. Have you fellas read this before I go on a bit further?
No, I enjoy the thing that I liked about the Phantom story, the Blind Man's Bluff. I've only read probably the two Phantom stories, to be honest. I've flicked through the others, but I haven't had a chance to read all the other stories. And to be honest, this is a Phantom podcast and not a Raven podcast.
Jim's going to try and rein me in, and I'll do my best to do.
Yeah, so maybe you quickly talk about some of those other stories, and then we'll talk about the Phantom content.
Okay, right. Well, the Phantom story, we'll say. So we'll get to the child. I'm assuming that's a child. No, Gold Key.
Gold Key, yeah.
All right, so we'll get to that back in a minute. And we'll go back to the grand story. So,
do you want to do the grand story now, or should we do the other stories and then?
We'll do the grand story. So the grand story is only like a little 4-pager, I think. We've even got the two Jungle Patrol ladies also make a cameo. Simple story. I think he's about to show it up on the screen.
No, wrong one.
We have some fellow who just seems to be minding his own business, but then Gran kind of says, "G'day, mate. Hey, what are you doing here?" And then he tells him, "You mind your own business, you little fat hobbit." And so they have a bit of a to and fro there. I'll punch you in the nose and all that sort of stuff. And it all seems all kind of innocent until you turn the page and the fella brings out an AK-47. So, this escalated quickly.
Yeah.
But an AK-47 is no match to a big old hole in the ground where you can break your leg. So don't pick a fight with a pygmy or a bandar pygmy, because they're going to have the last laugh. You know this. And next time, instead of poaching with an AK-47, how about you just collect some herbs or take photos, as the girls say, or the Jungle Patrol ladies say at the end. Fun little story, fellas.
Look, it's not the best of these stories, but it's good to see some of these other, characters. It's a good filler. Again, this is actually drawn by Elaine Johnson. Johnson. She's a female artist. She's done a couple of little fandom bits and pieces for Fantomen a few years ago. Look, it is what it is. I like it as a filler. It's not my favourite of them, though.
Dan?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much on the same page. I'm glad we saw it in colour, even though it's only 3 or 4 different tones of colour that they use. I think that makes it pop a little bit more than it would have done if it was just black and white. Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. In the same way that Mysterious Fog was probably my favourite of this series of stories, The Man Who Digs a Pit, this one, it's probably towards the bottom, to be fair. But I thought it was an interesting choice to throw it into the giant size, because it is actually the 11th story. I know it says 10 stories on the spine on the front cover, but this is the 11th actual story in the comic. It's interesting that they chose to use it in a giant size annual rather than in a filling up where they need a 4-pager for a regular Frew.
Well, what would have
an extra few pages on this one?
Yeah, what would have you preferred?
Between 192 and 196 pages, who cares? For a giant size.
I can answer that one. So the papers each page is actually 4 pages. So you've got these, like an A3 piece of paper.
When you print it gets folded into 4 to be put into the book.
Yeah. So, and then depending on, or is it 4 or is it 8? I don't know, but it's to do with the printing. That's why you kind of go from 36 to 48 to 52, and then you've got 100 or then 108. So you have to have a certain page count.
Well, 196 works better than 192.
Yeah, it's something to do with like that. Look, I haven't done printing for decades, but I know that it's to do with that, and that's why when you've got your Phantom issues, you've got 36 pages, 52, and it's actually set up like that. So the alternative is you would have had to find something else to put in there for 4 pages. So I guess that's why it was probably used, is because most fans would probably prefer reading a 4-page story about Garan than looking at
An extra 4 pages on a Gold Key story.
or even they might have not had any, that this might have been easy, or so
you can see why they do it, and of course it's got to do with the page count and the maths there. Skipping forward to the death of Sir Falcon's story, and rather interesting that Sir Falcon's on the trail of Carlisle Blackwood and his old nemesis Kane. They're trying to figure out what's going on here. But what's interesting is one of the last stories of Sir Falcon, it was mentioned that there was a nefarious past or something. He was threatened with the truth of his past, that he wasn't all smelling of roses and rainbows. And this harkens back to that there was a Sir Falcon who was arrested on the murder and robbing of a fella, and I'm assuming got sent to jail. I can't quite remember that now, but read it and find out. But what I really like about it is that they say that Sir Falcon is just he's just going on the myth of the Phantom. Just, he's been stealing the Phantom's lore, and there's a lot of text. It's very, very text heavy, but it's kind of funny. Or I was reading with a smile on my face, like a royal smile, and it's the criticism that we had on Sir Falcon, that he's going for 600 years, and it's the oldest person or the oldest son takes on the mantle. Shane is really playing up those links to the Phantom, or that has been stolen by Sir Falcon, and he's being accused of stealing this stuff from the Phantom. I just thought it was a good little wink and a nod to the audience there.
Cool.
I won't go too much into the story because that's basically it.
But it's important. It's important to note, especially if you read the last panel on page 167, that you kind of have to read this short story because the Phantom's doing a crossover with Sir Falcon next.
Yeah. So in the next episode, the Phantom joins in next for the Voice of the Dead. So I'm assuming it's going to be for the Phantom of the past, who was 100 years ago with the Sir Falcon that was mentioned there. Planet Man, I actually thought this was a modern story, but looking closely, the art's probably an older story. But the fact that it was coloured kind of threw me and thought it was.
And it was a very clean, because I was the same. Because I'm looking at it,
and it's good.
Yeah, I'm looking at it and I'm going, is this a news story? And then I'm looking at the art and I'm going, well, it could be a news story, but who's the artist? It doesn't look like Shane Foley. And I couldn't picture it. And then I'm looking at the little contents at the front, and the other ones that are news stories have, new written in it. So I'm like, it doesn't say new there, but it could be a mistake. And
it doesn't mention anywhere who it's done by.
Yeah, and the art quality was good as well. Like, it wasn't grainy and looked obvious that it was a photocopy. So it got me intrigued.
Yeah. So that's a decent little story. It tells you the origins of Planet Man. So if you're interested in finding out how Planet Man became Planet Man, go have a read of it. It's actually pretty good.
It actually, and I was much the same. I actually flicked through the Shane Foley story. Haven't read that yet. Sorry, Shane, and I will. But it just time poor, and it was text heavy, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to have to spend more time than I've got right now to engage in that properly. Oh, Planet Man, that's in colour and really easy to read and flick through. And I figured from the start that it was an older version, but I usually give those about 2 or 3 pages, and if by that stage the story hasn't hooked me enough, I'm like, okay, it's one of those old ones that hasn't stood up. I think this stands up, and it's just fun. There's some silliness about it, but it reminds me of why we like comics. Yeah. So yeah, for a 1950s or 1960s story, I might actually go and read a Planet Man now.
Yeah, it gets you in. Now, in contrast to that, the next story, The Raven and the Witch, this one definitely is a modern story. It's written by Andrew Constant with art by Jason Paulos. This definitely isn't a smile and a wink and a nod or a chuckle story. It's fairly heavy, fairly dark. We've got these swindlers trying to swindle these rich people out of their money, and it's an interesting bad guy too. This what's her name, Senor Truth or Miss Truth, whatever her name was, to swindle them out, and how the Raven enters the fray and saves the day. Well, the artwork's Jason Paulus, and whether you either like him or you don't, I like it. But I do like where it's uncovered that the Raven is there. That's a fantastic splash page there. Of course, this is in full color. I do like the Raven character, and there's also the person who played this Miss Truth. She uncovers, and she's not actually an old hag or this old witch. She's actually quite young, and she could have legs too to go through in another story. She has this kind of ability to be able to see a part of the future or things that are going around, and realizes that this pet raven that the Raven has is not just a normal bird, and I'd like to see that explored. It's kind of been hinted at in previous stories that this raven or this bird is kind of like an overseer and has been there for as long as the castle's been there at least, kind of like the Raven spirit guide, if you like, and what's he called? Full of eldritch power. Now I had to Google what eldritch meant, and I know that Paul Mason has made a comic called The Eldritch Kid, but eldritch means. It means weird and sinister or ghostly, as in an eldritch screech. So that gives you the idea of the context of this story, weird and sinister and ghostly. And I liked it. I enjoyed the Raven stories.
I think I prefer Jason's artwork in colour. I think it
works really well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it works, especially with these type of stories as well. It works well. So yeah, no, I kind of did like that.
Yeah.
Should we move on to Blind Man's Bluff?
Yeah. The Sir Falcon story from old day. That's it's an old one. It's okay. The Phantom Commando. Yeah, it's definitely a story of its time. Now, Blind Man's Bluff. It's an old Gold Key story. Bill Lignanti is the author. Who's the who's the illustrator? Who's the author there, Jim?
Good question.
I think.
Yeah, Bill.
I just want someone else to say that one. Interesting name.
So just quickly, if you're looking on YouTube, this is actually a scan from the Gold Key comic, not from the giant size comic, so it's a little bit washed out.
Okay.
So just
I thought the colouring on the Gold Key was a bit washed. I mean, on the giant side was a bit washed out, a bit faded, not good, vibrant. Anyway, it starts off. We've got a couple of fellas who have escaped prison. The Phantom's on their trail, but actually the Phantom's trying to find some pirates who are off the coast. But then these two fellas, they run into I think it's the Seuj tribe from memory. And the Wambezi, I think. Sorry, one of them, and they ask for help. The Phantom gets Jungle Patrol to go look into it. The Phantom goes back to the pirates, but it all turns out that they're kind of interlinked. The pirates are there waiting for the escapees, and of course he saves the day. He stops the guy who's going to pick up the escapees, but in doing so, he gets a flash, a flare gun goes off right in front of his eyes, which gives us the name of the title, Blind Man's Bluff. So the Phantom can't see for the remainder of the story. He's gone old Daredevil on us, but luckily he has got Hero and Devil to guide the way, so he's able to get back home safely. Of course not, because that really happens at the start of the story.
He does an amazing amount of stuff while he's blind, really.
Say that again, mate?
He does an amazing amount of stuff while he's blind.
He's incredible, but that's his jungle upbringing, his jungle senses.
I suppose so.
However,
making the trap, setting a trap and having people blunder into it and then catching them.
He didn't catch all of them, though. He only caught 2 out of 3. So
I know, but still a lasso up a tree and all the rest of it, your Wile E. Coyote type trap that he was able to set while just feeling around for jungle vines and stuff, I thought was very impressive.
He does a good job, but unfortunately he wasn't able to escape the swamp or the quicksand. and it looks like that's about to do him in. And so, but he sends off Hero to see if he can get the Bandar to come. And so he spends the rest of the story trying to stay alive in the quicksand, and he's actually able to still communicate with the Jungle Patrol, and the Jungle Patrol are able to tie things up, and then finally, he's able to escape the quicksand, and he'll get his sight back too, through wonderful character who will live on forever, Dr. Axel. What do you think of this story, fellas?
Look, it's a story of its time.
Definitely of its time.
Yeah, look, I enjoy Bill's artwork. I'm lucky enough to actually own a little commission piece that he's done back before he passed. I like the end where you've got the retelling of a phantom legend.
Yeah,
like
that's
that, where it's that is a bit of fun. These stories are meant to be fun. I also like the fact that it's a new story rather than a retelling of a Lee Falk story that Bill has redrawn.
It's a Gold Key original.
Well, yeah, because most of the other stories that Bill Lignanti has done have all been, like redrawing of the Crybaby, of, Wilson McCoy classics, so it's nice to see him do something new, if you know what I mean. So,
yeah. Dan, any further thoughts?
Oh, I think what Jerm said there about it being a product of its time is quite good. I got a bit of a giggle about how immediately the Phantom was able to use his jungle skills and daredevil senses to be able to do all the things while he was blind, as I said. I also like the way that last couple of pages, that how all of this becomes part of the mythology and the legend of the Phantom. So I haven't read it before. I'm glad I have now. Is it one of my favourite all time? No, of course it's not. But it was enjoyable, and this is why we like the Giant Size. This is an opportunity to read these things that not everybody has been able to see or collect before. So yeah, it was good.
Very good. It's just an overall summary of these last 4 or 5 issues in this pack. Covers on the whole good.
Glenn's Glenn Lumsden's 2 are probably the standouts for me.
Yep. Yeah. And that's not saying anything bad against the other guys, but Glenn has done an absolute stellar job. Pick of the stories out of this lot?
The 22nd Phantom.
Yeah, the Showdown.
Yep, I'd have to agree. What about with the backup stories, the shorter stories? It's a harder one, really.
Yeah, for me, it would have to be Ghostwalkers because it's different.
Fair enough. I'd say the same with the Mysterious Frog. Because that's always the Vietnam story is what it is. It's awesome.
Because you've gone Mysterious Frog, I'll give the Marshall Sisters Vietnam a vote so that they're in the mix.
All right, very good. Okay, so that's all from Frew for this period of time. Now we have some reviews from the latest comics from around the world, including from Mikael reviewing Fantomen comics from Sweden, and Seuj reviewing the latest comics from India. Take it away, Mikael.
Time for another Fantomen review with me, Mikael. This time it is issue 9 of 2023 with this issue, and now I got word on how to pronounce it, so I hope I pronounce it better. Juan Bosch. And he also had help with the cover by Andrea Cagol, and it is like the Frankenstein's monster, and the Phantom looks pretty cool, and it is also the main story of the issue, but it's not the Frankenstein story that we got in Frew a few years ago, but a new one from Juan Bosch. And they decided to print it in black and white because it feels like the reason is it's a horror story, and that works better in black and white than in color. We get some information here also about the creator, sounds good, and the story is it is the better one of the ones he had written script to, I think, and his art is amazing as usual. And then after that we get a article written by Andreas about Mary Shelley and the monster. So be on a lookout for that. And then there is the last part of Libertalia, and I think it looks, I mean, it's really good, and it's nice to have a conclusion of it. It wasn't my best album series, but I think it was quite okay. And then we get a preview of next issue. That will be a double issue. It will be out next week, issue 10-11. It will have the third part of the Belle Epoque by Pida Andersson and Percy Ochoa. It will have the Tony DePaul, Mike Manley Graveline story. It will have Marked for Life, a shorter story with Jimmy Wallin and Anna Weatherly. It will have the first part of the next Undertaker album. I've read that one, that is great. And a new Carl Schempe by Jörgen, so that is amazing and great. And we will also know the result of the best story of 2022. Looking forward to that, and see you then. And for now, happy Fantoming. Time for another Fantomen review with me, Mikael. This time I'm going through issue 10 through 11 and 12. Starting off with double issue 10-11. We have this cover by Lyck Arbata. Very nice, bright cover. A lot of texts covering it, so we know there will be a lot of content inside. Starting off with the editorial page, here we learn about how Andreas and Jörgen, two Fantomen writers, and Andreas is also the editor, of course, how they got interviewed about their Fantomen work in national newspaper and TV, so that's great. And Jörgen, that made his first Fantomen story a few issues ago, he also made the cool intro to this Fantomen reviews, so thank you, Jörgen. And then the first and main story of this issue is the Frew produced Belle Epoque Part 3, Under the Streets of Paris, or Beneath the Street of Paris, as it was called in Frew. It's made by Pida Andersson and Percy Ochoa, and it has living colors. This one, I would say, is not as strong as the earlier ones in my opinion, but I still enjoy reading it very much. And then we have a side comic made by Jörgen, who was in the editorial page, with Carl Schempe. This was a very short episode, but I think it looks amazing. And then we have another side comic, Undertaker, the White Indian, and it's part 1 of 2 of this French album. I think it's French at least. And it is a great album in my opinion. I had read it before since I helped doing the Swedish translated album. I did the pre-press work on that, and yeah, I think it's a great story. Then we have a short Phantom story, Marked for Life, by Jimmy Wallin and Anna Weatherly. It's nice and short. We get the result of the best adventure or best story of 2022, and the winner is The Legends of the Vulture, the first part by Pida Andersson and Anthony Space, so a Frew story 1. And then on second place we have the one where Fantomen went to Sweden, A Prince in Almedalen. And on third place it was a reprint of Rasputin's Rebus. What do we have more? Then we have a new daily story, the Gravelines story, Wreck and Ruin at Gravelines by Tony DePaul and Mike Manley. I got mixed feelings about this one. I'm not really a fan of this dream or prophet stories, but after reading the Paul's explanation online about how he feels this is like, yeah, this is how the Phantom will die if the strip goes down. You just have to imagine it. I think it's really smart of him to do that, and cool to be able to do the last story in a way. Then we have the preview of the next issue. We don't have to go through that because I have the new issue right here. And this has a quite dark and mysterious cover by Rafael Ruiz. On the editorial page, Andreas talks about how this story got made, since he's the writer of it, and how it was it was ordered by Frew to make a sequel story to Falcon Berry story, and this one is continuation of The Missing Link by Falcon Berry. It is also some talk about when Robert Arman, who was an interviewed guest here at Chronicle Chambers when he was in Uppsala and hold his speech, I guess, presentation. This looks amazing in color, I would say, and it has a lot of color, as you see, which is nice for change, not only shadows. And most Frew readers have already read this, I guess. Let's skip, see what else in this issue. Yeah, it's the second part of the Undertaker story that we saw in the last issue. And as I said there, I really like it. And then it's the preview of the next issue. We see two Phantom stories, one new and one reprinted Team Fantomen stories. So, Catched from Above and The Wild Animal. Looking forward to seeing that. So thank you for me and happy Phantoming.
Welcome back for another Fantomen review with me, Mikael, but this time it is a Mustanaamio review. I got some great help from my friend Marit with understanding what it says, because I don't know Finnish at all, even though it's very close. So this is the special issue they did this year, quite thick. I thought it would be it's the Vampire of Carpathian, but it's not only vampire stories, and it's not only that story. So they actually have they reused this old cover by Rolf Goos that was used in the 70s. Looks pretty similar, maybe touched up the colors a bit, and it features 4 stories: Sir Phantom, Knight of the Round Table, The Vampire in Carpathia, The Treasure in the Castle, and The Prisoner at Capitolium. So it's 2 stories from 76 and 2 stories from 85. Pretty weird that they have Swedish text here and not Finnish text, but that I can understand. And the cover is by Rolf Goos, as we said, and all of the stories have art by Heimi Valve, and 2 stories are written by Ulf Granberg and 2 stories by E.D. Carelli. And I really like that they have used the cover art inside of the book as well, and removed all the commercial text. They did not use the original art, from my understanding of Marit's translation of the foreword. They have instead retouched it and removed all the other stuff. And the stories are in black and white. The paper quality is quite thick and not glossy, but matte. It has a nice feel. There we have the second cover. And we have this nice one, and this one, and it ends with this forward in the end. Yeah, overall a good one, and it's the stories hasn't been reprinted at all in Finland, and not in Sweden either, and it has, some of them hasn't even been in English at all, so maybe this will make Frew want to pick them up. But it's still weird that they choose these old stories instead of taking one of the newer Team Fantomen stories, since the regular comic book hasn't been out since 2010. But yeah, good issue. So that's all from me. Happy Fantoming.
Hello and welcome to another one of Chronicle Chamber's comic book reviews from India. I am Seuj Abir, and today we're going to be reviewing Shakti Comics' The Phantom number 7. Yes, yeah, you are seeing double. So yeah, this is the regular cover, and this is their version of a variant cover. So yeah, let's get started with the review. So Shakti started printing their books in this large size, and with that they started bringing out Phantom variant covers again. They did it back in last year with their second issue, but now they have done it again, continuing from issue number 6. So yeah, that is something interesting. Yeah, that's about it. Anyways, so this is the regular cover, and for that you get this artwork. You can, yeah, it is kind of like a double spread, but it is not a double spread, by Abhishek Vishwas, and it has this price, which is $2.29, and you get this soft UV, which like the Phantom and the logo kind of shines, but the rest does not. And for this, which is the variant cover, which only comes with the for the English edition, but and it is priced at $2.59, so it is a slight increase of price there, which is interesting. And yeah, so both of these cover arts are by Abhishek Vishwas. I personally prefer this artwork because it looks pretty nice. But, yeah, so let's get started with the review. With this larger format, this issue is like a standard magazine, like you can bend it and stuff like that. Like, yeah, you could do that. And this is like, yeah, it is like very large compared to their previous issues. Anyways, so this issue features the story called Dan Came Town's LRP, which is a continuation of the Mexican saga, the conclusion to that saga, I believe, by Tony DePaul, which Shakti published before in their 3rd, 4th and 5th issues, and now they have printed this one, which is nice. Anyways, so you get this nice artwork. I believe this was in their previous issue as well. So yeah, and the story is written by Tony DePaul and art is by Mike Manley. So yeah, the paper they have used is, yeah, it is much thicker than the one Regal currently uses, which is yeah, it's printed very nicely, no editing whatsoever, not that I can see. Yeah, so you get this book, which is 39, 40, yeah, so 40 pages, 40 pages book, and you have the stories. In the back you see the different languages covers for the same book, which is nice, and you see then a synopsis of the story, which I think they did a very good job here, because you know what happened before, like they did the recap, like if anyone hadn't read the previous issues, they can know what is happening here, because it is like a continuation, right? Anyways, and they have the introduction to the story, yeah, and also you have these two pictures of Tony DePaul and Mikael. Very nice, yeah, quite cool. The variant cover one, it is the same in the inside, just the cover. You get here is same spotty thing, yeah, but it is black and white. Personally like this one, yeah. Again the same things, you get the same things here. So yeah, another new issue from Shakti. Actually it's not the new one, it came out I don't know, in the beginning of this year I believe, and now they have been taking pre-orders, and for the 8th issue, which will feature a Lyck and Seuj story colored by Shakti's staff, and they have been teasing that for quite some time, and it will probably come out this month or the next. So yeah, that's about it. One thing more to mention, which I forgot probably, Shakti is giving away these kind of standees. These are cardboard where the art is like drawn, printed, and then you can, you know, stand them there, right, like that. So some of these two I believe came in the previous number 6 issue, which they gave it for free to whoever pre-ordered the comics, and that is nice. And with these two comics, like if anyone's ordered it, they get these two standees. So you can stand them there, but I have not opened the packs and they're still in the packaging. So yeah, they look nice and kind of different style of artwork. Yeah, it looks quite nice, I believe. So yeah, that was it for Shakti Comics Phantom number 7. I am Seuj Abir, and today we are going to be reviewing this Phantom number 8 from Shakti Comics. So yeah, again double, but not double white, but variant covers. Yes, this comics features is Lyck and Seuj story, and this one is the main cover, which is used for the 3 languages by Abhishek Bishwas, and this is kind of like a double spread cover, but it's quite not. Looks quite nice and kind of reminds me of the Indrojal cover they did. It is taken from the story, but you know, it's kind of yeah, it's like a Vishwa's style and stuff like that. It looks quite good, and yeah, pretty good. So yeah, that is that main cover, and now we have this variant cover, in English variant cover. So this cover is done by Low Mana, from who you know from like Moonstone and Frew. He did a couple of stories in for both publications, and the colors are done by Abhishek Vishwas. I don't know, but strangely he chose to have like the Phantom be painted in like blue. That is like the Scandinavian color, and we don't often see like the Phantom in blue here in India. So yeah, that is something. But yeah, that did catch my eye. Anyways, let's move on to the books. So about the covers, I really enjoy this one thing, I think, because it looks quite nice, and yeah, this image of the Phantom looks very good, you know, and it's one of the like one of my favorite covers done by Abhishek Vishwas at the moment. And this one, yeah, it is good, and it is like done by Lumana, and his stuff is I like quite a lot. But this one, yeah, I mean, this one catches my eye more, you know what I mean? So yeah. Also, this issue, this back cover of that variant one has the black and white version of the this art. Anyways, let's talk about what the story it prints. The story that it prints is called Luck and Wealth, written by Lee Falk and illustrated by Seuj. And since this is a daily story, and Shakti had to hire a colorist, and the colorist's name is Rudrakash. So we can see here his colors, and so yeah, that story, I think I enjoy this this colorist Rudrakash's colorings, but I have a few complaints. Like, this character is like yeah, so white. I thought he should be kind of dark skinned. Yeah, but it's a nicely done coloring, and kind of reminds me of the Indrejal colorings, and but it is a digital coloring, and it still has kind of like these shadows and stuff. Yeah, I kind of like this coloring more than the Simi Muhammad coloring from Regal, but that is just my opinion. But it is very good colors, as you can see here. Yeah. So yeah, the pages they are using is a very nice page. It is thicker than the one Regal uses, but that's what I told you before in my previous reviews. One strange thing the colorist Rudrakash did though was that he chose to paint the Phantom's trunks in red and black. We see the Phantom's trunks more in white and black, or blue and black, but he chose to have this color, which is interesting. And then you have the overcoat he wears as Mr. Walker, and that is colored blue, and that reminds me of the Indrejal colorings, because in Indrajal or Diamond Comics both had like the Phantom wearing like this blue overcoat, but when Regal published them, the Phantom like wears gray overcoats. Like there's the book, the recent number 30 showed the Phantom wearing a gray or like black overcoat. So yeah, it's interesting for sure. So yeah, let's move forward. Nicely printed, nicely done, like they always do. Very nice paper, and it makes the comic look great. So 39 pages of the story, and you have the ad, and then this is like they are now starting the introduction, or like, you know, an introduction to the story itself and a picture of the creators. Yeah, looks yeah, that's very good. And it also mentions like a lack of wealth when it was printed in Indrajal. That is a very good thing. And then we go to the variant issue, the same book, but cover is different. Yeah, so you can see it's price 250, which is both are priced 250, which is good because, you know, in the previous issues they charged more for the variant cover issues, but now they don't. That is very good. Yeah, it looks well done. So that was another issue from Shakti Comics. Now talking about what they provided for free with these freebies. So these two are another two standees that they like, cardboard figures that you can get them stand like on top of these. Then they can, yeah, one is Moz and one is Devil. Very different art style, but I kind of like it, and that is a very good like freebie from them. To talk about Shakti, we have to talk about like what is their format choices, because I mentioned in the previous review that, you know, they need to come up with a fixed format for their comic books, because yes, they have kind of arrived at a fixed format, like this kind of big magazine size book, and it's the, you know, it can bend very easily. That the cover paper is not like very thick, but the Regal ones, even though they are like bigger than these books, they don't bend easily. So yeah, that is a problem. Like if you have both of these, they can bend easily, and then it's kind of like a standard magazine. It still feels like a standard magazine to me. I don't know why, but yeah. And the most important thing about Shakti is that they need to address their, you know, they need to stop, you know, delaying their products, because these comics was announced, I think, back in like March or like the 1st of April, and then it came out like long after, like in the middle of May, then the whole shipping thing, then it took like 3, 4, 5 days. Then it arrived. Like it was like after pre-ordering. I think I ordered this back in April 1st, and then they came to me in like April in May 25th. So that is a long time. to get your like product and to deliver something on time. They need to, yes, they did. So they need to keep in mind their delays and try to find a like fixed format and think about like their prices and keep on delivering great products, and they should be good. Yeah, so another great issue from Shakti Comics, and I hope they continue to publish more stuff like that, and they keep in mind their delay problems. And today we are going to be reviewing the Regal Publishers Phantom Comics number 28 and 29. As you can see, both of them are quite a big book, and they do feature like multiple stories in them, like four stories in both of them. So let's have a look at these two books. This one, which is the Phantom 2022 Christmas Special, was released back in like during the Christmas time, 24th December of last year, I believe. And this one was released during the February 17th, the Phantom's birthday. So yeah, that's almost 2 months ago, and this one is like last year. So yeah, so that is a very huge gap, and let's get started with the review. Looking at the Christmas special of 2022, it features a nice Christmas themed cover by Ankit Mitra. So yeah, it looks very nice, as you can see. And there in Chronicle Chamber there is now an article discussing about the Christmas themed Phantom covers, so please go check that out as well if you're interested. So yeah, this book is very nice. As you can see, this is again a glue bound like paperback kind of book. So yeah, Regal seems to be loving this format, and they have been like doing this with the next one and then the ones before. Yeah, I mean, it does look nice, and you can put it on the shelf if you like. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So anyway, this one comes with this free gift of this Christmas card. So it is the same one as the cover, like even the same size with the cover image, slightly bigger this one, few centimeters I believe. So yeah, and that is the card. Let's have a look inside. So it features 4 stories: the Janusz, the Lookout, the Dinosaur, and the Isle of Death. So yeah, 4 stories. So the first, the Janusz, the story written by Tony D. Paul, and art colors by Jeff Weigel. So yeah, it looks it is the very recent complete Phantom Sunday story. So yeah, and Regal like printed the previous story, The Visitor, after it was published like most immediately in their comic book format, and even before like Frew or Fantomen did it. So yeah, they are doing it here again. They're keeping it up, like that's cool, and they're printing it very well, but in this nice space. But this paper they're using, the glossy paper, it's like it's not much thicker like they used to do before. Like you can see it, it's not, it's more like a matte paper, I believe, not glossy. Yeah, I don't have the exact idea, sorry about that. Anyways, moving on to the second story, which is The Lookout. This one's Lee Falk story and drawn by George Olsen and inked by Fred Fredericks. Colors are by KFS stuff. Which to mention, now Regal are like entering the coloring credits, which is a new thing because they only like credited the story, the author and the art. Now they are crediting their like who colored it and stuff like that, and that is cool. And because they have got like new colorists to do their color work. Anyways, moving on to the story, The Lookout. Yeah, so this is this story Regal did publish a few years ago on their Malayalam series, which was launched in 2019 and ran for 5 issues after they started printing in English. So that story they did publish, but they have published it again. So yeah, in this nice format. Very nice. Like I can look, the printing looks very nice. Feel the shine. So yeah, it's very good. Very good representation of the colors. Anyway, so moving on to the next story, which is Dinosaur. This is a Lee Falk story, and art is by, of course, Seuj, and the color is done by Anand Kumar. So yeah, nice, pretty nice coloring. Too much focus on the darkness, I guess. It's like a different sort of yeah, it is good. It is good coloring and it looks good. Like you can see the panels and stuff like that. It does look very, very good. So yeah, I quite enjoyed the story, and it's nice reading it in this colored format. Next story is The Isle of Death. This story is Sunday, but it's by art by Seuj, but I think the colored version Regal didn't get the colored version, so they commissioned a colorist to color that for them. So this is the colorist, Simi Muhammad. So yeah, Simi Muhammad. Yeah, that artist colored this story. Yeah, it looks nice, but yeah, I think the coloring by Anand Kumar is more like more standard sort of good. Like I prefer his coloring more than this one because it is good. It is like too much like focus, you know. Too much, even some stuff like you are trying to do too much, you know. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I mean it is not like as dynamic as the one before that. So yeah, anyways, it looks pretty cool, good stuff, but too much like like these panels, they look quite different compared to the like here you see He's trying to put little shadows and stuff like that with lightning. But here it is nowhere to be present. Yeah, so that is nice. Quite enjoy the story and presented quite well. I like this panel. Yeah, the color is cool. Yeah, so an ad for the anniversary special of 2022. Again, another paperback book, which now Regal prefers the most, and the previous 2 issues, which have already been reviewed on Untitled Chapter. So that was it for this book, which is Phantom Christmas Special 2022, and it is number 28 of the whole series. Now talking about the number 29, which is the another paperback book. I think it is yeah. So it features this cover by Simi Muhammad. Sorry, the name is Simi Muhammad. So yeah, that artist, and it looks pretty nice, I believe. It is like based on the story in here, which is The Kidnappers by drawn by Fred Fredericks and George Olsen. Again, yeah, pretty nice. Again, like laminated cover. Yeah, so yeah, it features 4 stories again. The Kidnappers, which I already told you about. Dig, another story by Lyck and art by Olsen and Fredericks. And The Dolphins by Lyck and art is by Seuj and colored by Simi Muhammad. And Revenge in Rhodia. This is a Deepole story, Tony Deepole, and colored and art and colors by Terry Pete. Anyways, so let's go to the first story. We see, yeah, the story is the last Lyck Sunday story. So yeah, it's been printed quite well by Regal. Yeah, it's like printed very well. Yeah, this is like what the inspiration for the cover came from. Then the story has ended, and we have Dig, which is the second story, again written by Lyck, and it takes place after this the story in the previous book, which is the Lookout. So yeah, it is like it picks up from like where the Lookout left off. Fantomen now again is involved in another adventure, which is nice, like which involves a prehistoric creature and something like that. Yeah, it's nice one, nicely printed by Regal. Anyways, let's move on to the story, The Dolphins. Seuj artwork, Lyck story. Colored by Simi Muhammad, and it is quite, again, like same style of coloring, but it has kind of quite improved. Yeah, it looks nice. You can see the panels and stuff like that. It does look nice, and that is pretty cool. And then yeah, so we move on to the next story. It's Revenge in Rhodia by Tony Deepole and art by Terry Pete. Yeah, it is like a modern story, so yeah, it was not printed by Regal before, so they printed it. It's nice artwork by BD, and looks very nice, you know. Yeah, it does. I mean, yeah, that's about it. And then where is this? Yep, Savarna shoots the Phantom, and he's like, yeah. I remember reading it in the magazine where it appeared first, and then now I see it in a comic book format, which is pretty nice. Yeah. So yeah, now they have advertised the trade paperback from last year, and this Christmas special from last year. Yeah. So yeah, pretty good issue. This one is the card, this is the card based off the cover, and it's been given as a freebie. So yeah, it looks nice. And today we're going to be reviewing Regal Comics The Phantom number 30. So yeah, let's get started with. So yeah, this is their recent issue. They published it back in April 10th, and I got it very recently because of the postal service delays. I got it very much late. Anyways, so yeah, this book is, as you can see, has the same, you know, glossy cover. And, you know, it features 2 stories, so it's like with a perfect binding and stuff like that, soft cover. So yeah, as you can see, 2 stories, Return of the Thuggies and the Shipwreckers, and the cover is based on the story Return of the Thuggies, and yeah, by Ankit Mitra. So yeah, looks quite nice. You also get I don't know why they did this. This is a printout of the cover inks, you know, and I don't know what they were supposed to do with it, just color it or not. I don't know, I'm not coloring it, but yeah, I mean, with like what they usually do for freebies, this time they did something different, and I'm not quite a fan of it. Like I would have been happy with like a poster or a card or something like that, or a bookmark, because they have not done bookmarks like for a long time, or even stickers. So yeah, that is kind of but they did still didn't like put any text in the spine there. So yeah, that is something. Anyways, so it features 2 stories, as I told you before, Return of the Thuggies and the Shipwreckers. Return of the Thuggies is written by Lyck and drawn by Seuj, of course, and the color is done by Simi Muhammad. Yes, so yes, Simi seems like he's becoming Regal's like new regular colorist, because he did the Christmas special and then the one in February, number 29, and now he did this one. So he did like 3 stories, and yeah, he's becoming Regal's regular colorist now. Anyways, so then we have the Shipwreckers. This is a story written by Don Evenell for the Fantomen magazine in Sweden, and then Claes Reimerthi, he adapted the story to for like the Sunday strip format. So yeah, after Lyck passed away, this was the next story. Last Lyck story, the terrorist, was printed in the last issue, number 29. Now here you have the story after that, the first non-leaf walk Sunday story. So yeah, and then the art was drawn by George Olsen and Fred Fredericks. So yeah, here are the credits, and Ankit Mitra gets mentioned as the cover artist and art director. Yeah, that was nice. Anyways, we have the story The Return of the Thuggies, colored by Simi Muhammad. And yeah, then also I need to mention that that story, I think, is the longest running Sunday story ever. But I don't know, but seems like the new Sunday story by Tony DePaul and Jeff Regal might even be longer than that. Who knows? Anyways, that is something else. Anyways, so let's look at the story. The colors of Simi Muhammad is like still the problems that I have had with he uses like these shadows, and then he doesn't like this page is no shadow using or something like that, nothing. And then here he doesn't use the shadows and stuff. I mean, the color does not kind of have consistency. That is one of the biggest problems with coloring. Like these, as you can see, these here in these panels, you can see here, like you can see nothing, but here in the first page you can see like he's trying to use kind of shadows and stuff, but the later things don't have that. I don't know why, like what is this kind of, and some of the coloring choices like I'm not much of a fan of. Don't have any sometimes there's shadows and stuff. Yeah, it is a very long story, but yeah, printed very well by Regal. The colors do look great. Like the Phantom somehow wears lipstick now. Yeah, some coloring mistakes here and there. Looks cool. Looks good in most of the places, but some of the panels are like I don't like them. Some of the colorings. Sometimes you have shadows, and what I told before. Now suddenly you have the shadows and stuff. You can see here. Like what the hell? This here. This panel, this panel, yeah, there. It's like interesting, yeah. And then last panels, the first panels, and the first three to the first page, and then the last 3 or 2 pages, you again have the kind of thing in the Phantom's costume. You didn't have that. I don't know why you are doing that. I have no idea. So yeah, the second story, The Shipwreckers. So this story, yeah, this is like very much of let's say, yeah, very much of a like the Olsen and Fredericks like kind of copied the artwork of Kari Leppänen. And Kari Leppänen wrote about that on his website as plagiarism by, Fredericks and Olsen. That is a different thing, but yeah. I mean, the story is fine. I like the artwork by Fredericks and Olsen here. Some of the stuff I don't like, but I remember it reading it in the magazine again. Yeah, it was very good when I read it at that time, and now to be reading it in a comic book format is always great. It's nice, nicely done, nicely printed by Regal. So yeah, that is the end of the story. So this book is like 96 pages. It is a bit smaller than the previous like paperback ones. Not paperback, I mean kind of like a trade paperback or perfect binding soft cover books. Yeah, so Legal is doing this format, and I think they will be doing this again and again. But I always like to have, you know, in the previous issues they did like they printed 3 issues or 2, like having 2 comic books at once was kind of like very good, very, you know, nice feeling. Now that they're doing this kind of soft cover books, I don't think, like, I really want that old format back. But what they are doing is nice, but this is not enough, you know. Like, you need to put out more, because they like put out stuff in in 2 or 3 months. So yeah, for that gap I think you need to do more. But anyways, another nice issue from Regal, and looking forward to their, you know, future releases. I think they will be doing another trade paperback collection again, and I am looking forward to that as well. So yeah, that is another issue from Regal. Thank you very much for watching this review, and I hope Regal listen to this kind of complaints and suggestions, and try to bring new things to the fans. Yeah, thank you very much, and happy Fantoming.
Thank you very much, fellas. Now, coming up next will be our Sydney Supernova, whichever way you'd like to say it. Wrap up, which will include some video grabs from the weekend. Now, if you have any ideas or creators that you would like to see interviewed or re-interviewed, of course, please contact us. Our website is chroniclechamber.com. Our email is chroniclechamber@gmail.com. I hope you fans have enjoyed that. And of course, we would always love to hear your thoughts, your feedback and opinions on our social media platforms, all over at the YouTube channel. So I think that's about it. Our website, I've mentioned that. You can subscribe to us either by, you know, YouTube, hit the notifications, ring the bell, all that sort of stuff that you hear on the YouTube videos. Subscribe to us through your favorite podcast apps, whether it be iTunes or Spotify or whatever else you get your things from. You know, this is 2023. I'm sure you know how to work that out now. If you don't, ask your kid. They'll let you know.
Be a grandchild for knowing how.
That's about it. But don't have anything else, any other little tidbits? No, I've mentioned about my Phantom beanie.
No worries. Well, it's good chatting with you guys. I love wearing my
Phantom jumper. There we go. 2 podcasts in a row now.
Yeah, great chatting with you guys. Until next time, happy Fantoming.
Happy Fantoming, everybody. Enjoy Sydney if you're going, or Vim.
Happy Fantoming, everyone. All the best.